as Vikas rightfully called out in the beginning, if there are any questions, which I'm hoping and assuming there will be, feel free to keep posting it on chat and try avoiding coming off mute. It's not that we don't like to hear your voice. It's just that the continuity of the session will break. That's about it. Okay, with that I start. So Vikas has already given the introduction. I'm not going to repeat, and I'm going to be quickly sharing the slide. Let me know once it is visible. Vikas, are you able to see?
Yeah, it's visible. Vartika, if you can just click on that hide so that at the bottom so that that doesn't come in the recording. There is okay. There would be like a hide link. Yeah, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
Okay, so disclaimer, right? As Vikas said, this session is about helping you, enabling you to crack your interviews better. But it is not that I'm here to guarantee a job. Whatever I'm going to be sharing is basis my experience and what I have learned from others through their experiences. Because in life, what you learn is not just limited from your direct learning. It is from your circle of friends, family, and environment at large. Um, the basic etiquette to be followed in an interview, and today's presentation is not rocket science. We are all aware of it, but I will be clearly calling it out as to what is it that we should be prepping for and what is it that we should be avoiding, right? So to begin with, when you get a confirmation from a company that a company you've been selected for a company for an interview, the first thing is to research about the company, right? It doesn't mean that you have to know everything in detail, but things at an uber level, right? What does the company actually do? Where all does it have its global presence? Where in India does it have its presence, right? On their website, do you have anything that talks about the future roadmap or anything that resonates with you from the company, right? That makes the relatability and the connect factor very, very important. Doing a research about the company prior to the interview is only going to give you the confidence when you're at the interview. It'll reduce the ambiguity and you will be less in fear of the unknown. What if the interviewer asks me and what if I don't know? Even after you do research, there will be scenarios wherein you don't know things, and we will cover in the points ahead as to how you can tackle those situations. Research is number one, right? Second is dress professionally. I know this is a millennium age, and we all believe in. When I say we, I personally believe in dressing up in casuals myself, even today, right? But it doesn't mean that I can attend an interview in shorts or anything that's inappropriate. And I understand that inappropriate can be very, very subjective, but just to make it a little bit easy for everybody, research about the company is going to tell you what kind of culture the company has. A lot of companies today encourage smart casual dressing, but a lot of companies prefer employees or interviewees coming in formals. Research is what is going to get you there. Avoid any bold colors, fluorescents, because that can be very, very distracting for the interviewer. You want to be heard more and seen in the right way than adding distraction to the interviewer. Similarly, wearing very strong perfumes or ensuring that if you're not smelling bad, you're smelling too good can also be a distraction. You wouldn't want to enter a room where the interviewer starts sneezing and then he's not or she's not able to tell you that it's your perfume. So just be a little mindful of that. Arrive a little early. Very, very important. Many times what happens is, if we've not done a prior research and we don't know where our interview is going to be, in all the cases, your recruiter is going to be sending an email or a WhatsApp with Google Map location or the details. But do not rely on the day of the interview an hour prior to search what is the distance from your place and what is going to be your mode of commute. All these things should be done prior so that you are in the peace of your mind and you can concentrate just prepping for the interview than trying to manage the last minute logistics. Ensure that you are there in the interview place at least half an hour to 45 minutes early. There could be exigencies that you want to attend to while you are when you've reached the interview place, and this buffer is going to help you. Even if there are no exigencies or emergencies, it can just help you calm down and gather your thoughts and prep well for the interview, right? um, Limit distractions, very very important. This is when you have this is when your interview has started, right? Now I am taking this session. Now imagine if I take this session and I'm trying to talk and I'm trying to check my phone as well. You will actually think, um, did she really have to take the session? Why is she so distracted? Is she even committed to taking the session? Similarly, if you are in the interview, I'm quite confident that none of you will be fiddling with your phone or checking any messages, but there are other kinds of distracting body languages. It could be just twirling your hair. It's not because you want to look good, but it can be taken as a sign of nervousness, right? Or it could be just fiddling with some stationery. It could be an eraser or a pen or a pencil, just playing with it on the table. Third could be not establishing an eye-to-eye contact with the interviewer. These can be very, very distracting. What happens is when you do all of this, when I'm talking, and if you are distracted, my attention on what you are saying will naturally go down, but I will start focusing on the physical cues that you're giving me. So I will not be able to absorb on what you're trying to tell me, and I will lose on that. And more than me, you will lose on that because you want to make the most of it when you are being interviewed. So very, very important. Eye contact, extremely important. I have seen a lot many times people looking here and there. Look into the eyes and talk. It doesn't mean that you have to stare at the person, make the person conscious, or be rude in your gestures. No. But it talks about how confident you are at that point in time taking that interview. So ensure that you are establishing an eye to eye contact. Speak with conviction. Very, very important. Again, everything will tie back to the research that you've done. If you have researched about the company, there is some bit of knowledge that you are having about the company when you land for an interview, than being somebody who doesn't know anything and you're just sitting there for the interviewer to tell you everything, right? When you speak with conviction, it comes from the fact that you know what you're talking. It could be about yourself, it could be about your profile, it could be about what you've studied, it could be what you've researched about the company, right? Do not try to bake in lies here. If interviewees have become smart, interviewers have also become smart over the years, right? Um, we can totally sense how much of truth is being spoken, and you wouldn't want to be caught in a situation wherein you want to project yourself as somebody who's not you, and then the interviewer tries questioning you more on that particular topic and subject, and then it starts going down south, right? So please be honest, um, and speak with conviction with whatever you are talking. Very, very important. Check the internet connection. This is, of course, with virtual interviews. A lot of companies still are continuing virtual interviews, right? If there were organizations doing 6 to 7 rounds of interview, some of them have moved to a mode wherein they are doing hybrid. As to first initial few rounds will be virtual, and the next couple of last rounds are going to be in person. But some companies are completely still running it virtually, right? Very, very important that you ensure that the technical glitches do not hamper your interview. It may still happen, right? But the only thing that I tell everyone is control the controllable. The prep that you need to do before the interview includes all of this. If you think that in your home, if you plan to take the interview from your home, internet is patchy or there are regular power cuts that you will face at that time, please figure out another place which is quiet, that can provide you the right kind of environment to take the interview. Multiple interruptions in the internet connection may also not go down well with the interviewer. Does it happen with everybody? No. Let's take into account that each individual is different and human behaviors are very, very different. I may be forgiving to, let's say, a couple of interruptions in an interview, but another person may not be. Beyond one interruption, the person may just come back and say, you know what, you fix your internet connection and then let's talk another time. And you wouldn't want to lose out that particular opportunity, right? So ensure that these checks are done in place. Last point, but not the least, have the question for the interviewer. Very, very important. As much as we think that the interview is done to know the interviewee, interviewee asking a question to the interviewer is also part of the process. And it again ties back to the research that you've done, right? You attending an interview, and let's say all the questions you answered well, and towards the end, when the interviewer says, do you have any questions for me? And if you go back and say, no, I'm good, right? It can go two ways. One, the interviewer may think, oh my God, she or he knows everything and we are sorted. Second, he or she doesn't know so much and is not interested also knowing so much. You wouldn't want to be in the latter phase. Ensure that you project yourself as somebody who has the growth mindset, who is asking very, very mindful questions, right? When I say have questions for the interviewer, mindfulness is very, very important, right? You wouldn't want to ask the interviewer, where do you live? Which car do you own? Right? Please tie it back to the profile that you're being interviewed, the company that you're being interviewed, right? Maybe his or her career trajectory, right? Anything around the professional setup of that organization will be very, very welcomed. So ensure that you have at least a couple of questions on the table for the interviewer, depending upon how the interview has gone and how much time you have. Okay. Any questions, please keep posting on chat. But I will not stop. We will try taking up the questions towards the end. Okay, important documents to be taken in interview. This used to be a time during pre-COVID times wherein the digital environment wasn't so active as much as it is today, right? I remember walking into interview with my CV, at least a couple of copies, ID proof, so on and so forth, and it continues. It hasn't changed, right? So for you folks as well, when you are attending an in-person interview, please ensure that you have at least 2 to 3 copies of your resume handy. You have your educational certificates copy handy and one ID or address proof. Very, very important. You can come back and say that it's digital. They've already collected the soft copy. Why do they need? Absolutely fair questions, right? But if you, let's say the interviewer has had a look at multiple profiles, because when freshers are being hired, right, it's normally so many students, and your profile he's not able to recall or she's not able to recall who you are, right? That's when you can just present your copy. I'm carrying a copy of my resume. Would you like to have a look at it, right? That's where it's going to come handy. Any process post the interview that requires you to submit your ID proof or educational certificates is going to be handy, and you will just end up not dealing the process for yourself. A lot of organizations today do ask for ID proof, even from people who are attending interviews. So having all these handy is just going to help you not to get in the panic mode. Oh my God, I did not bring it. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh my God, is it going to lead to negative marking for me? So just ensure that you have copies for this when you are going for in-person interviews. Okay, now we did briefly touch upon this topic, right, in the previous slide, that when you are attending an interview, ensure that you have questions for the interviewer. But typically, when you attend the interview, there are some questions that are asked default, right? While the next slide is not going to cover all the questions, and not all the questions may be asked to you as well, but a couple of them will definitely be asked. So how should you go about answering them? Here they are. Tell me about yourself, or where do you see yourself in 5 years? When managing a complex project, stress is inevitable. How will you plan to cope with it? What is your weakness and how you plan to overcome it? And why do we hire you? If you relate all these questions, right, the interviewer is only trying to find the differentiator or the uniqueness in you from the other candidates. Tell me about yourself. Everybody would want to know. But do they want to know what you've already written in your profile? No. In your profile, you would have already mentioned what CGPA you had, which college you graduated from, which place are you from, right? Try not to do a repeat of that. The way you can position is, I'm so and so, and while this information is already on my profile, I would like to talk about something else, right? Ensure that you're bringing in some kind of uniqueness there. What do I mean by it now? Any project that you've handled, just touch upon it. Any hobby that you have, right? Talk about it, right? Anything that you have been doing in social service space, talk about it. Any kind of mentoring that you have been doing, talk about it. The examples that I'm giving are pretty limited, and each individual is unique. You will have your own USP. Try thinking what is it and how is it that you can bring in your introduction. Ensure that your personal introduction is not taking away 90% of your introduction, and ensure that you have a fine balance between the study that you've done and what kind of mark you've created for yourself and your personal introduction as well. Very, very important. Um, when you're introducing yourself in your hobbies, I'm not saying that everybody has a unique hobby, right? But certain things you cannot say. I've heard people saying sleeping is my hobby. Please avoid making such statements. I know this generation really likes to be relaxed. Sleeping is one form of relaxation for you folks, but it doesn't sound very encouraging when you are in an interview, right? The way you can position is that if I have nothing to do, I would like to give myself some rest and probably look at some wellness programs, or how is it, or some opportunities where my relaxation is not just related to sleeping, right? The narrative is very, very important. And this was again just one example. So hanging out with friends is again another one, right? Then quoting these things would just mean that you are just like the other person in the room and will not give you the extra edge that you could have had if you were a little mindful about introducing yourself. When do you see yourself in 5 years? Very, very important. I think all of us are quite clear in our mind. I mean, this is what I have studied and this is what I want to do. While your near future is cracking the interview, the research that you've done about the company, you definitely know what roles are there, where is it, and how is it that you can land in 5 years. Now, whether that happens or not is very, very subjective, but that will also tell the interviewer that how well prepared you are, how focused and intentional you are with respect to your own career growth. So ensure that you know it, and it's not cast in stone that the interviewer is going to hold you accountable, that if you crack the interviewer sees you after 5 years, this is what you said in your interview and now you're changing it. Nobody does that. They only want to know the clarity of thought that you have and what kind of career aspirations you're having. Yeah. The third one is about managing a complex project, and stress is inevitable, right? This is very, very important. I think no matter which company, which stream you are in, stress is inevitable. There will be situations wherein you will feel, oh my God, I don't know whether to go east or west, north or south, and I'm stuck. That's exactly what the interviewer wants to know. How will you cope with it? Because stress, whether it comes to you in the first month, let's say, of your training, or whether it comes when you're completing first year work anniversary, nobody knows. But how do you deal with it, right? The best way to tackle it is if you have an example to quote, so that it becomes very, very relatable and authentic for the interviewer to hear from you. Just passing a comment like, I have handled a lot of stress in my life and I think I can do it. Very vague and ambiguous. But if you bring in a situation to it, for example, right? And I will give my example so that, and you can, of course, change it basis the context and the experience that you have, right? If I was in your situation, I would have said that when I joined a new company, I had a team of people and things changed. Team members started leaving. I wasn't too sure whether it was me or the change in the leadership that kind of prompted this, but it was very, very stressful for me because the work had to be done, but with an unstable workforce, I did not have a line of sight how it was becoming stable. right? How did I cope with it is even more important, right? I had a candid dialogue with my boss that if there are, let's say, 80% contractors in the team, we should be looking at, let's say, 40% FTEs in the team now and making it 60% contractors so that the continuity of work is there and we can see less of attrition. That's the way I approached. Whether that happened, not happened is irrespective. Your interviewer is only trying to see what kind of solutioning mindset you have, even in extremely stressful situations. So think on these topics and then you can handle it. In your specific cases, it will be around your college, your studies, your syllabus, and how you coped with it, right? If you are having some work experience, you can tie it back to your previous work experience and bring it here. Fourth one, what is your weakness and how do you plan to overcome it? A lot of times I've heard people, at least in the past, I've heard people saying, I don't have any weakness. Very hard to believe, it's an aspired state to be. All of us have weakness, including me, Vikas, everybody, right? It is that moment of awareness and acceptance. Yes, I have it. But at the same time, I am doing ABC to overcome it and not live with it, right? Um, Example, when too many tasks are given to me, I'm flabbergasted and I don't know how to prioritize. And I end up missing timelines, there are escalations, and then, of course, I am in a very, very stressful situation. But what I'm trying to do now is start writing down right at the start of the day, I make a list of tasks that I need to complete in that day and ensure towards the end of the day, I revisit that list. So it doesn't become a dead list that I wrote it and then I forgot. No, there is a check to that list. So if I had 7 events, 7 tasks to complete on that particular day, I will revisit it at the end of the day and see, right? Also, writing it down helps me prioritize. What is it that should move up? What is it that can move down and can wait, right? Since it is work in progress, I don't say that I have overcome my weakness, absolutely, but I'm on it, right? So this way the interviewer feels that yes, you are aware about yourself, you are accepting that you have weakness or area of opportunity, but you're not stopping there. You are making corrective action to make it better for yourself, and that's what he or she wants to know. Why did he hire you? I love this question. One straight answer can be, for whatever I've told you about earlier is why you should be hiring me, but that'll sound very, very rude. Here, you should think that what is the differentiator that you can add when, as to why is it that they should be hiring you? Again, any instance, any example, right? It could be, I think that I have a growth mindset. And you could give examples like when you were in your course, if you took up any extra certifications or you were pursuing any other line of learning, that would be very, very good that you did not limit yourself to the course. Now, I don't mean to say that everybody who's on the call should just, after this call, go and register yourselves for any certification. Not at all. It is your area of interest. But there will be something for all of you, and that is something that you should kind of call it out. It could also be like that when I was in campus, there was a bunch of folks who were struggling with a particular subject, and that's where I decided to mentor them and coach them, right? That talks about how you take people together. As much as you are competitive, you want others to succeed as well. Remember, together, you can walk only as much, but together, you can walk far. Right? And these are the things that the interviewer will be interested in knowing. So ensure that in questions like these, you are clearly able to call out the differentiator that you have in you. Okay, with that. Okay. Communication is extremely important, right? By that, I don't mean that you need to have flowery English or you need to use some difficult words that the interviewer only starts searching, okay, what does it mean? No. Please keep it simple. Your communication should be simple. Your communication should be understandable by the other person, right? But at the same time, right? A lot of organizations still emphasize that the communication should be in English, right? Because that seems to be a common language. As much as I am comfortable in my mother tongue, which is Hindi, the interviewer may not know even H of Hindi, and I lose the chance of, you know, uh, getting that job. Would I want to do that? Not really. Best is to work on my communication, and there are various apps that you can leverage to build on your communication skills. Other than the five that you see here, right? What I always encourage people is, I'm sure everybody reads newspapers. It could be digital or it could be print, right? If you think that you are not at a level that you feel confident about your communication, start reading aloud in front of the mirror. This is a very, very old age technique, but trust me, it worked for me. And I will quote a personal example. My English was not what it is today, and I'm sure most of you will be thinking that I'm lying, but it's true. It wasn't. I started picking up English newspaper, not the Hindu. I used to find it quite difficult, and I was in school then. But I started reading Times of India so that I get the fluency, and I started reading in front of the mirror. Then I started communicating slowly with my family members, and with all those baby steps that I took, I am where I am today, right? So even if you are not having access to these apps, but I know all of you will have smartphones, that's one easy way, right? um, let's say if you are not having newspaper in your home as well, what you can do is just in each of your batches or classes, you will have somebody who certainly has communication skills that you aspire to have, right? Talk to him or her and tell that, I need help here. Can we speak for 15-20 minutes every day towards the end of the day? And all that you have to do is talk about how your entire day went in English. That's it. That's going to help you to think what happened. That's also going to help you to collect your thoughts. And most importantly, that's going to help you to say in a way that the other person can understand and is concise, right? These things have worked for me, and it's a no brainer. It works for all. Okay, there is a video. I will try seeing if it plays. Let me know, Vikas, if you're able to hear the audio.
Vartika, we can't hear the audio. Uh,
Um, I expected. Mm, okay, give me a minute. I am not quite sure how do I enable this here.
maybe you unshare and share browser,
Let
and
me
then
try
then
doing
we'll
that.
ask.
Let me try doing that. If for some reason the sharing option itself is. Let me know once my screen is visible.
Yeah, it's visible. The audio is still not there.
Okay, because then what we can do is, in the interest of time, since we just have 23 minutes left, you could share the link of
So
the
someone
video.
is suggesting trying sharing only the tab on which you just let's just try this one more time.
Sure.
While we are doing this, guys, if you have any questions, type it in the chat window, and we'll take it towards the end of the session. Okay, I can see it, and just maybe
Are you able to hear Vikas?
no, no. I
Yeah.
think what we'll do is we'll share the video after in the chat. I'll share that in the chat window. I'll find it and share it in the chat.
Done. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, so this video is also nothing, but it just talks about that if you watch a scenario or you hear something on your computer and then you try rephrasing it in your own words, right? And that's exactly what I was saying. But it's a good video to watch. So yes, please do share the link so that the students can benefit. Okay, how to handle stress interviews and situations. Now, this is very, very interesting for all the interviewers. And the reason why I'm smiling this is because I have been through so many stress interviews. And I have seen a lot of students going through stress interviews, right? And there's a lot of sweating, fidgetiness, uh, panic on the face that, oh my God, I don't know, what will I say? If I say this, will I get the job? If I don't say this, will I not get the job? I think keeping yourself calm and composed in interviews is extremely critical. Um, the interviewer will have his or her own yardstick to assess you, but there are likely going to be questions around stress situations, and they only want to know how will you tackle it, nothing else. They don't want to say that your approach is right or your approach is wrong or you're not ready. No, they only want to know how will you tackle it, right? There could be, and these are just two examples. This does not cover the exhaustive list of stress interviews uh, that may come your way, right? I see a gap between your educational qualifications. Can you explain why? Right? It can happen that people have taken a break from their educational qualification, and the reasons could be very, very different. It could be that there was a need for you to take care of a family member, and that's why you took a break. There could be a reason wherein you had an situation in your family wherein you had to support them financially and you had to take a break, right? It could be that, while I attained this degree, I wanted to get some corporate experience and then proceed further, right? And there is nothing wrong or right in all these three situations, right? But do not fear and panic. Your interviewer is not judging you because you had a break. Your interviewer only wants to know how are you able to justify the break that you had. Very, very important. The moment you panic, yes, I have had a break, but uh, uh, the interviewer will know that you yourself are not convinced about the break that you've had. A lot many times life will throw situations that we are not very convinced about, but that's what life is. It doesn't go smooth for all. There are going to be ups and downs, right? With conviction, how are you able to explain why is that break reflecting in your profile is what your interviewer is keen to know. This ties back to the question how you're preparing for the interview. You, as an individual, will know that you've had a break, right? It's best to be prepared. It's best to know what is it that you are going to say. And if there is a probing question further to it, it's best that you're prepared for that as well. From a personal example, I've had a break of 5 years. And when I resumed back corporate, the first question that I was asked, and that was a stress question to me, why should we hire you? It's a risk. It wasn't just why do we hire you in the previous slide. The question did not end there. The question was, why do we hire you? It's a risk that we run because the profile that you had before and the profile that's being spoken about are very, very different. My answer to that was, I totally agree that both the profiles are very, very different. My previous experience and to what you're offering me do not talk. But I am what I am with my previous experience, and it cannot be negated. What we learn is what we are made of, right? While this particular job requires me to hone my skills and to learn something new, I'm all ready. right? And if you are taking the risk, I am equally taking the risk of moving my career in another direction. And I'm very confident that I will give you all the success stories that you need for yourself and for myself in particular. That was a question. That was the only interview that I attended after 5 years of career break, and I bagged that job. I'm not saying I am great. All that I'm saying is these questions are very, very common. So it's important that you prep for it, right? Be assertive. Don't be rude, right? It would have been very easy for me to say, "Hey, I had a break because I became a new mom and I did not have the time." That's also one way of saying it, right? The other way of saying it is I was on my family way and I prioritized my family and my child at that point in time. However, now I feel that I am ready to come back to corporate and to become independent again. And here I am. Meanings are the same of both the statements that I made, but the how part of how the narrative was and how will the interviewer take it is very, very different. So ensure that you're assertive and not rude and ending your answers very, very positively. Do not be guilty or do not beat yourself for taking a break. Um, I don't do that myself at all. Um, a break was justified for me and I took it, but I am back with all the energy and gusto to learn. And that's all the interviewer wants to know. Okay. Common mistakes we make in an interview. This is very, very important. And I'm sure everything that's in this slide is known to you.
Vartika,
Yes.
I think the slide is not visible. The browser is. So I think
Okay.
you have to unshare it.
Yes. Give me a minute, please. Because let me know once it's visible.
Yeah, it's visible now. Yeah.
Yeah. So common mistakes we make in an interview, and I'll move to the slide that has some bullet points, being unprepared. Now, we covered it all, right? The moment you start fumbling with words, the moment you're scratching your head, you're not able to answer, the interviewer knows that you've not come prepared for the interviewer. And unfortunately, a perception is going to be formed right there. As I said, each individual is very, very different. Behaviors are very, very different. Some interviewers may give couple of chances and some may not. You wouldn't want to be in a situation wherein you're losing out on a great opportunity, so please be prepared. Okay. uh, Dressing inappropriately, you don't want to be a distraction for the interviewer, but you want to leave the room having a very, very positive recall in the interviewer's mind. So tomorrow when they are stack ranking or when they are just sharing the feedback, discussing with other interviewer or other panelists, you are topping the list, right? Dressing inappropriately will be one of it, right? If you were a distraction to them, it'll be very hard for them to even look you in the top. Talking too much or not enough, right? This is very, very important, right? A lot, many times what happens is candidates can just allow interviewers to complete half the question and assume the other half and start and interject right there. Not very encouraging. Please allow the interviewer to complete the question, right? Also, please ensure that you're not giving one-line answers. As much as communication has to be crisp, it cannot be one-line answers. They want to hear you more. They want to understand your line of thought. They want to understand how are you going to react in a certain situation. And all of this cannot be covered with just one-line answers for all the questions, right? So ensure that you are striking a fine balance between talking too much or not enough, right? And be mindful of what you talk. Failing to ask questions, again, as I said, it'll come in the unprepared section or it'll come as the candidate is really not interested in knowing about us, right? You don't want to fall in the latter category. So ensure, and every interviewer will definitely ask, would you have any questions for us? Have you been able to understand everything that we spoke of? And you can say that yes, maybe 90%, but 10% is where this is where I have a doubt. Could you explain me again? Right? Very, very important. Project negative energy during the job. interview. This is uh, very, very important. There could be questions to which you don't have the answers, right? There is a way of saying it. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I did not have enough time, right? Yeah, what to do? I was too busy with my course, right? The way you can say it is, my academics kept me very, very busy. But now, since I have some time, I'm just researching about some courses that I want to do, or I'm researching about how is it that I can give back to the community. So what I'm trying to say is you are saying the same thing. You are saying that while you were studying, you were busy, but you have started thinking on honing your skills rather, or it can be anything, right? But you are trying to end that answer on a positive note, right? Very, very important. Not doing company research, it's a no-brainer. The interviewer is only going to be happy if interviewer can post you a question. So what do you know about us, right? That's when your research will come. It doesn't mean that you can say that this office, these many people are sitting and these are the projects that you're running. A lot of information is very, very confidential. But as I said, the website is going to give you a lot of information, and you can sift the information to see that if such a question gets thrown at you, how is it that you can answer, right? Globally present, uh, in India, how many offices you have, the career trajectory, who is the site leader in India, right? So on and so forth. Also, researching about some of the key leaders, right? When the recruiter contacts you saying that, okay, you are going to be interviewed for this business group, you can ask, may I just know who the leader is? It's not to kind of stalk the interviewer, or it's not to stalk the leader of that business group, but it's just to see, can you read about them through LinkedIn profile? Very, very important. I have personally ensured that every interview that I've attended, I have read about the interviewer on their LinkedIn profiles. It's needless to say that this wasn't done to impress them, that I know your bio data, I know this company you spent these many years, this company you spent these many years. Not really. It just shows the interviewer how keen you are in getting the job, and you have gone that extra mile to study about him or her and the company. Losing your focus. If a question is being asked to you, please ensure that you limit your answer to that question. Do not digress. Interviewers are really not interested. That will also show them how focused you are and what kind of understanding abilities you have. The focus also means you're not distracted, right? You know, playing with your hair or any kind of object or phone, very, very distracting. Or even your profile, right? You're having a hard copy of a profile and you're fiddling with it. No. You may still be giving the right answers, but the interviewer may just interpret it as that you were not able to focus or be stationary when you were being interviewed, and you don't want that. Unsure of resume facts, when you're preparing a resume, please ensure that what you are writing in your resume is everything is something that you can substantiate. Do not see anybody else's resume and put in flowery language or write things that you're not sure of, and that's not authentic about you. You may be caught off guard, and it is likely possible. And you don't want to be in such a situation wherein you're not able to talk with conviction about what you've written in your resume. Remember, for freshers, resume stands the source of truth, right? Because you do not have any prior work experience, everything that you've written in your resume is something that most likely your questions are going to be based around, right? So when you're talking about your projects, when you're talking about your internships, please do not copy paste from what your roommate or your classmates have done. It was their job. It wasn't yours. You want to be very, very sure of what you are writing so that you can talk properly and with conviction. Okay, websites for interview preps. I'm not going to be doing a demo for this, but you can go through these websites. In fact, there is a video link as well, but my feel is that it may again not have the sound. So in that scenario, Vikas will share the link, go through it. It just talks about some non-verbal communication language during the interviews. But do go through these websites. It's only going to help you to prep for the interview. These websites will not be able to give you direct questions that your interviewer may ask, but it will help you to think that I may also be asked such or similar questions, and this is how I can navigate. So there's so much of material that's available today. Do go through these. Okay, Vikas, I'll try playing this video, but I don't think, I mean, I think audio.
Yeah, the audio is not working. I've shared the link in the chat window with the
Sure.
attendees.
Sure. See, these video links are very, very interesting. Do go through them. The animation, the visuals are also very, very interesting so that it doesn't become monotonous and you start dozing off. These are short 4 or 5 minutes clips, but it'll give you a lot of insights as to how you should be conducting yourself in the interview. So please do go through it as time permits. Yeah. Research before an interview. There are a lot of websites that you can go through. And again, not limited to these: Quora, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. I personally use all three. It helps me to see what is the company all about, where are they. It also helps, if you go through Glassdoor and all, you actually have ratings about these companies, very organic, where employees have rated or ex-employees have rated. You can also see questions around salaries, compensation, benefits, insurance, so on and so forth, right? So you can just make yourself more aware about the company. Since we just have 6 minutes left, I will come towards the end of the presentation and see if there are a few minutes left. Maybe I can take you through one of these websites and help you to see how is it that you can research about the company. But I personally rely a lot on LinkedIn. It gives me a ballpark figure of how many people, offices, some kind of rating. But Glassdoor and Quora also provide good level of information. Okay, now this is important. Most of the interviewers are going to ask you, do you have a question for me, right? And as I said, ensure that you're basing it around the role or the company or your career trajectory that you can have in the company. That's going to help the interviewer think that you are very focused in your career growth. And with that thought in mind, you will give you 200% to the job, right? So it can be these questions, but not limited to. You can have any other question beyond this, right? So what is the scope of growth in this role? What has kept you in this role means the role that you're being interviewed for, right? The next question is, what has kept you going in this company for so many years? Now, please ensure that when you do your research, and this is where your research is going to help, it can so happen that your interviewer has joined the company 6 months back only. And if you ask this question, that what has kept you going in this company for so many years, will clearly show that you've not researched properly, right? Compared to somebody who's been in the company for 5 years minimum, the question is valid, right? But it's a good question that shows, again, you are projecting yourself as somebody who's researched about the company and the interviewer as well, right? Why did you join this company and how does it compare to your previous organization? Again, this ties back to your research. Maybe it's the first organization for the person and he's been there or she's been there for 10 years, right? So if you ask the person to talk about the previous organization, it clearly will show the person, okay, you've not prepared yourself. With this, again, I don't mean please mug up the LinkedIn profiles of all your interviewers, not at all. But at least have a cursory glance, right? And if you don't remember, you can just say, while I went through your LinkedIn profile, I'm not able to recall that prior to this company, whether you were with 2 more organizations or 1 more organization. But if there are any parallels that you can draw, it'll just help me understand how your experience has been, right? So while if you see, I did not quote the years that he spent in his previous organization. I'm subtly putting it that I read it, but I'm not able to recall at this point in time. But at the same time, I want to know the parallels that you can draw that can help me learn the experiences that you've had, right? What advice would you give to a new joinee, right? Anybody and everybody who's interviewing you will at least have a couple of years of experience, right? Their experiences really matter. What they have experienced, basis that they will give you advice. So this would be a good question as well. And where do you see the company 2 years from now? Important. This shows that you are keen to know which direction the company is going. Basis that, your growth, your interviewer's growth is also determined, right? But you can't be asking a question that, where do you see this company 2 years from now on? Because that will show how much you'll grow. Very rude way of putting it across, right? But where do you see the company 2 years from now? You are calling it out that you want to see the progress that the company is making, and inevitably a byproduct of it is that you will grow with it, right? But questions to the interviewers, as I said, are not limited to these 5 questions. You can go beyond this, absolutely, and think, what is it? Also, when you are going through the interviewer, please observe interviewer's body language. You will get cues during the interview to see what is it that's giving your interviewer a high, what is it that your interviewer is not absolutely interested in listening, right? Get these cues correct, build on it, right? If you sense there is a certain topic that's putting him or her off, you may want to tone it down. If you had thought that you're going to be talking 6 lines, cut it down to 3, right? Similarly, if you see something that's interesting and your interviewer has smile or says, tell me more about it, or this is very interesting, ensure that you build on it, right? With that, we have a minute more, but any questions, Vikas, that I may take?
Yeah. So Vartika, there are a few questions. Thank you. So there is an interesting question. Rishabh is asking, you have prepared for the interview, but you don't feel you are well enough prepared. So how do you sound confident in that case?
Very nice question. What I have done is I have done mock interviews. Have your batchmates or your seniors do mock interviews for you. There is absolutely no ego here. If you see, the world is coming closer to help each other. Yes, we still have differences, but as I said, together we walk far and we succeed. Reach out for help. There is no harm if you attend mock interviews, right? And you could only give them the questions. Let's say if they are not able to think or they don't have the time, just tell them, I'm going to give you some set of questions. Please pose these questions to me. And if you can record that, that'll be even better. All of us have smartphones, right? End up recording that, and it's not too much of an effort. I have done it because I wanted to see that more than talking, how is my body language coming across? Sometimes I think that I'm talking very sober, but the other person thinks I'm coming out very, very aggressive. And the video is going to tell me all of it, right? So take help from your batchmates, take help from your juniors, take help from your seniors, teachers. Tell them, right? I have an interview call and I'm so keen to crack this, but I think mock interviews is what is going to help me. Can you help me in that? That's it. Also, cheat code. When an interviewer reaches you, right? Recruiter will typically reach you, right? Check with the interview recruiter, right? Is there something that I should be aware of? Are there topics that you think that I should be prepping for specifically, right? Some recruiters will give you, some will not. Okay. And it's okay. Whatever you've researched about the company, let that be, in case recruiter doesn't share questions, and then your mock interviews will help you.
And one of the tip I want to give is, like, you prepare well enough, like, let's say, but one day before it, just feel good, have a good night's sleep, so that you are also calm during the interview and not just worried about all the things which are going around in the world.
I totally second that. The last thing that an interviewer wants to see is a hassled and puzzled interview. Imagine if I was sitting for this presentation, for this session, with my hair all ruffled and with looking very tired and fatigued. You will not be interested in listening. That doesn't mean that you need to have somebody who's very handsome or pretty. No, not at all. But the energies matter, right? So that's what Vikas is saying. And also a good night's sleep, ensuring that you've eaten well, just peps up your mood, right? Listening to some kind of music. Don't take stress. Control the controllable, and these are the things that you can control.
So one another interesting question is, as in you, Vartika, you talked about researching about the company, but what specific things, like people who are going to be interviewed should be researching about? What are the things they should look for?
See, specifically on the role, you will get a job description, right? Usually, some companies give very, very generic job descriptions. Some companies may detail it out. You may want to probe the recruiter further, right? So that you are trying to get more knowledge about the profile that you're being interviewed for, right? Also, know about the company, right? What are their growth plans? Where are they located, right? I mean, today, if somebody has to ask that, okay, you are being interviewed by ABC company, do you even know that there is global presence? Or do you just think that, okay, I've been called for an interview, that's all that matters to me, I will attend the interview and come back? No, widen your horizon, widen it. LinkedIn and all will, if you just type the company's name, it will throw up company's profile, right? Who is the CEO, the top leadership team. A lot of websites do give you the top leadership team, right? You may find some Indian names there. I don't want to sound biased, but these are the points that you can build on, right? That I see it is headquartered here. I see the presence in India is quite good in so many cities and it's only growing. I also hear there are growth plans. If there is news in media about the company or the industry enlarging their footprint, it adds to it. I mean, I was just reading about Micron, right? Investing more and more in India. Bake that in your conversation. That just shows that how aware you are with what is happening around you and not just like a frog in the well, just focused on your interview.
Yeah, so I would give another tip. Like typically, there'll be a question in the interviews, like why do you want to join this company, right? And doing that research will actually help you kind of answer that question. Like if whatever you find interesting about that company, and then you can use that research to actually help answer that why do you actually want to join this particular company. Okay, so there is another interesting question is like there is a common question like why should we hire you? So Vartika, like one of the attendees is asking what are the what are the good answers to give in that with respect to that question.
So honestly, there are no good answers or bad answers, right? As I said that each of us has differentiators. And we really need to think what is it that's our differentiator, right? Not sure if you attended the complete session, but I did say ensure that you have some relatable examples, and that's what makes you stand out from the crowd. And as I said, it could be around that while you were studying, you were approached by a group of your batchmates who were not strong in a certain subject, and you said that, okay, post classes maybe twice a week we could do combined studies, or I can help you get better at it, right? This would show the interviewer that how collaborative you are and how you believe in everybody's success, even with a competing mindset, right? Or it could be that even with your busy schedule, how is it that you are trying to learn other skills? And it could be anything. It could not just be limited to some certifications. It could be I wanted to spend time on wellness, so I started picking up I started taking some music classes, or I was giving tuitions to kids because I wanted to get some energy and positivity. So to each its own. There cannot be one size fits all. You will have to think what is it that's your differentiator. So if I have to give my example, the first thing that I will quote is and you don't have to say the same thing, because as I said, be authentic, speak with conviction, right? Why would they hire me? So number one is going to be that I think that I come with the experience that the role demands to take the organization to the next level. I also understand that this role is going to be very, very challenging and stressful, but I have other means to ensure that I am keeping my sanity in place. And one of it is my fitness regime. I do not give up on it no matter what the situation is. And more than physical, it helps me mentally to operate well. So that's how I would give the narrative.
Okay, so this is another interesting question. So basically, right, what if you are interviewing for a company which is not your dream company and you kind of interviewing for it, but like, and this question is asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? how best to answer, or can you mention maybe this is just not my dream company and I actually want to go to my dream company?
Very nice question and very pragmatic as well. Yes. See, you have to be very, very careful when you're answering this question. Reason is, as I said, we're all human beings. Our behaviors are very, very different. Some people will be absolutely okay that you kind of want to leverage their organization as a stepping stone to your dream company, and some may not be at all, right? Uh, Hence, I would not recommend that you say that, okay, this is not my dream company, but because my dream company is coming later, or it's not coming, hence I'm attending because I need a job. No. Please refrain, because you don't know what mindset the interviewer is coming from. But what, again, bring in your research that this is what I have read about the company. While I know the company is still growing, while I know the company is still maturing, I am keen to be part of that growth phase because I know there'll be tremendous learning, right? But the moment you say, this is not my dream company, I am here just for 2 years and then I'll hop, the person will instantly be in double minds to hire you. So I will strongly, strongly discourage you to say that.
Another question, probably this might require a full session in itself, but there are questions about like how, as in there are multiple websites which give you your resume score, and like how do you trust and how do you have a good resume? Probably this may be a separate conversation in itself, but maybe Vartika, you want to talk about.
You know, what I would say is talk to your seniors. You know, if you're really struggling and you don't know, because sometimes when you Google, there's so much of information that comes your way that also confuses you whether to go right or to left. Right? Speak to your seniors. If you have any alumni who is working in that company, reach out to them. Ask them what is the culture. Right? This is what I'm planning to wear. This is how I plan to dress up. What do you think? Do not shy away, right? There isn't a dumb question. And I know Vikas and I were just discussing before this call that no question is dumb question. And I always reach out to people, always. So in the best case scenario, your alumni, your professors are the best people if Google is confusing you too much. But for interviews, typically keep the colors very subtle, very sober. It doesn't mean that you're dull in life, no, but an interview is not the place to show that you are like a rainbow. Not at all. There are other avenues for it, right? Uh, a softer tone of each color is welcome. Then it could be a pink, a blue, a gray, a black, anything, but soft, so that what you talk is what the interviewer is focusing on more than what you're wearing.
Thank you, Vartika. Okay, that's all the questions. Like, if you guys still have questions, you can email or reach out to us on our support website. Thanks a lot, Vartika, for this wonderful session, and thanks everyone for attending. I think on a Sunday morning, getting so many people interested in interviews is an achievement you can count yourself in. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending, and thanks a lot, Vartika, for this wonderful session.
Thank you so much, Vikas, and thank you, everyone. All the very best in your job hunt and hoping that you all land in your dream companies. But wherever you start, do give your soul and heart, and you will reach where you want to reach. A thought that I want to leave you with. Enjoy your Sunday and all the very best.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.